Hello, so this is actually a response to a video I've come across on CNN, or at least it's a link that someone's put to a CNN report. And the title of that CNN report, or at least the title of the video, is Gamers Rape Little Girls to Win, Time for Japanese Game Regulations. Okay, I just want to share some of my thoughts on this issue because it's something that's come up before. This issue about morality in video games, lack of morality in video games, whatever way you want to put it. Now, basically, for those who aren't familiar, the impression I get is this: in these games, I don't know what the game's title is, but the purpose of this game is you win by raping or sexually molesting female characters. Now, I've been having a look at some of the comments below that video, and most of them are criticising the report. They're saying it's only a game, it's only a game. A lot of girls actually have condoned the game, said they see nothing wrong with it. I've mixed opinions on this. On one hand, I can see the argument that something that's visually not actually not causing any physical harm, regulating or banning that's maybe not the right way. But I don't quite agree with those who say that it's totally harmless. This is a game whereby the sole objective is to rape the female characters. That certainly, I would imagine, in younger gamers, that's going to sort of give a notion of that's an okay thing to do in real life. Now, I'm not, for a second, I want to emphasise this, I'm not saying that people who play this game are going to go out and rape a girl, but you know, under the logic of it's just art, you could justify anything that way. You could, for example, you could have a game about the Holocaust and then justify that as it's just art. You could have, say for example, a terrorist attack in a major city, and then days later have a video game stimulating that, and people say, oh, it's just a game. Well, I don't know, clearly not everyone who plays it is going to go out and rape a girl, but some will. Undoubtedly some people will be influenced by this, and if you deny that, then I think you're just not looking at reality. There will be people who will be influenced by that. The people will say they're playing it for escapism. As a man, I personally have no desires to rape a girl. Sure, I think about sex a lot. I'm a red-blooded male, I think about sex, but I genuinely don't think about forced sex. That really doesn't give me any sort of satisfaction whatsoever. That's just me. If you're a guy who gets turned on by that, well, okay, if you never do it in real life, that's one thing, but I still think it's a bad attitude to women. And if you're a woman condoning this game, well, I find that quite hard to understand. How do you think someone would feel who has been a rape victim or been sexually molested to see their ordeal being glorified through this sort of game? Because ultimately I think this comes down to just glorification of an appalling crime. And it does seem to me Japan is very, very tolerant of this sort of thing. Now, to be fair, the Japanese authorities have had some regulation of what can be seen. But I don't know, I've mixed opinions on this. I don't quite agree with the logic. It's just a game. You can justify anything by saying it's just a piece of art. You know, where do you draw the limit? That's my question. Where would you draw the limit on saying it's just this and just that? Having said that, I think the report wasn't entirely balanced. Towards the end, the CNN anchor came out with the statement it should be banned. That's obviously her opinion, but it wasn't very professional. As a CNN anchor, she shouldn't be making that sort of opinion in in a news broadcast. I don't know, there's just something that unsettles me about the idea of finding fun in those sort of depictions. It may not be the real thing, but nevertheless it's the notion of enjoying that sort of concept. Now people are going to say, well, you're trying to enforce mind control and stuff. No, actually, I think people can think whatever the hell they like. But there is a difference here, that this is an actual game, it's a physical thing that people are playing, and it is glorification of rape. You can't argue against that, that's what it is. Should it be banned? I'm not sure about that, but I definitely think it's common sense to regulate it a lot more. And this does seem to be a situation quite unique to Japan. I mean, you have violent video games and so on in other countries, but the Japanese attitude to underage girls seems to be quite much more tolerant than it would be in other countries. If you're Japanese, I'm not trying to offend you at all, but I'm sure not everyone in Japan would necessarily support this. I often disagree with feminists, but I think on this occasion they may be right to complain about this. It does glorify rape. People are saying it's just escapism, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit unsettling, because where do you draw the line? Now clearly most people who play aren't going to do this for real, but for younger gamers it is going to set the impression in their mind that it's acceptable to treat women like that. And that's certainly something that should be explored. I mean, people say there's absolutely no connection whatsoever between violent crime and the arts, i.e. violent films, violent video games. That hasn't been proven either way, actually. No one's proven that there is a connection, but no one's proven either that there isn't a connection, so you can't say for certain either way. I don't know if they should be banned, this video, because it'll probably get leaked anyway, it'll probably go underground anyway, but I think it's wrong for people to say it's just art. You could justify anything by saying it's just art. For example, you can have a massacre, a gun massacre somewhere, and then the next day have a video game specifically about that. I remember in the UK there was a video game where there was you had to have shooting inside Manchester Cathedral, and that was a particular week where Manchester had seen big problems of gun violence. So there's issues like that. I'm not 100% against censorship actually, and I don't agree with those who say that art should be unlimited and there should be absolutely no limits whatsoever to what they would argue is creativity. What I would say seems to be just glorification of an appalling crime. And you know, people are going to say, oh, I'm really square, I'm really Puritan and so on. I'm not. I've nothing particularly against violent video games or games suggesting sex. I've no big problem with that. But let's be honest here, this is a game specifically about rape. Specifically. I would have no problem if it shows a bit of cleavage or some bare leg, girls' legs, that sort of thing. But what we're talking, I mean, many video games have sexual innuendo, which I have no problem with, but this is specifically about rape. And you know, I'm not for a second suggesting, I just emphasize this point, I'm not suggesting everyone who plays it is a rapist, but I don't think you can say it's just art or it's just a game, because like I say, you could justify anything that way, and where do you draw the limit? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this, and you know, by all means, if you want to disagree with me, that's fine, but I don't want to hear sort of, oh, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, blah blah blah. I'm just sharing my views here, my instinctive reflection on this. I'm not saying the game should be banned. I'm just saying I don't think you can use the excuse that it's just art. It's a game specifically about rape, which I think is quite disgusting in its context. I mean, the report showed a girl being interviewed. She said she wasn't bothered, so that's an interesting factor, that there are women who aren't concerned by this. But I'd imagine there are people in Japan who are concerned about that. I'd like to hear both sides. Yeah, my instinct is it's just something, it makes me a bit unsettled. I mean, where do you draw the limit? I remember seeing a film called The Sick Room, and the idea of that was people would be taken to a room, and like something what we call in Europe snuff films, which is real life scenes of torture and so on, and people pay to watch that, which really is sick. Now clearly what this comes down to is just pixels, so in that sense it's not that harmful, but it's not so much the game itself that I'd be concerned about, it's the notion that the value in winning is through that sort of crime. So I am concerned about what sort of message it's sending out. Okay, let me know your thoughts. I'll put a link to the video that I saw. I'm sure there's lots of them floating around. It makes me unsettled, and I'd like to hear other men what they think of it. If you have played this game, if you do play this game, by all means justify it, defend it, whatever, but do it in a respectful way. You know, I've tried to make this video as respectful as possible. I'm not describing anyone who plays the game as perverts, so I respectfully ask that you reciprocate that respect. Okay, let me know your thoughts, and do you think the game is morally reprehensible? Do you think it promotes violence against women, rape against women, or do you think it's just a game and people shouldn't regulate that? Do you think violent video games or video games depicting sexual assault, sexual violence against women should be banned or regulated? Let me know your thoughts. Okay, do you have any sort of suggestions as to what's the best way forward? Should the authorities just ignore it, just let it be sold? From what I understand, the report has already been taken down from the shelves, so that's significant. Okay, let me know your thoughts. I'll leave it there. Okay, cheers.